Hello, hello, and welcome back to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser, and this week my guest is Anji Gray. She is going to tell you all about herself because I did not get her bio on time, and that's my fault. I was on vacation, but she is here, and I'm excited to learn all about you. So tell the audience who you are, what you're about, and who you serve.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Anji Gray. I am a master NLP life coach, hypnotherapist, health coach, and I serve women who are in any kind of transition, just trying to figure out their next move and wanting to better their lives in general.
Nice. Okay, so how did you get into that? Let's talk about your journey as a fearless female.
Okay.
How did it all begin?
So how far are we going back?
Let's go back to the beginning, like before you even became a life coach.
Okay, perfect. So my very first job, my first big girl job was a massage therapist. I absolutely loved it. But being being a massage therapist has a lot of wear and tear on your body.
Oh, yes.
And I started noticing wear and tear on my body, like I think at like 26, 27. And I was like, no, that's way too early to be having body issues. So I decided I needed to find something else.
Mm-hmm.
I went into hairstyling because I wanted to serve people I wanted to see how I could serve people on like their mental and emotional, like I was with massage therapy,
Mm-hmm.
but also be creative. And I was like, I love doing makeup. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I'm not good at doing other people's makeup, but I'm great at doing other people's hair.
Yeah.
So I was doing hair for a long, almost 7 years.
Wow.
And my favorite part of doing hair was the conversations I had with these women.
Mm.
And I got to learn a lot about a lot of like all types of women
Yeah.
and men who came in my chair. And I learned that everybody is going through something.
Mm-hmm.
Even the women you think have it all together, they don't.
Yeah.
Usually, once
Yes.
they open up, they don't. Well, I got pregnant and I had to quit hair
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot of chemicals and a lot of standing on your feet. I thought I was going to be the one who would be like, my water broke, let me finish this haircut, but that's not the way it happens.
Yeah.
And then while I was pregnant, I learned hypnobirthing
Oh.
because my husband was deployed and I battled depression and things like that my whole life. So I knew being alone in a transition of life, I knew that I needed to combat what
Mm-hmm.
my past had been about, how my mind will go. So
Yeah.
I was like, what can I do to prepare my body and my child for the world? And I
Yeah.
learned hypnobirthing. From hypnobirthing, I learned about Montessori.
Yeah.
Montessori made me realize our language is the most important thing that we have. And it's the most important tool we can learn to use for various different reasons. From learning about Montessori and becoming a Montessori family, I was like, how can I learn to use this for adults and
Yeah.
like other adults in my life? And I kept coming across NLP. And finally, I was like, what is this NLP thing?
Mm-hmm.
And when in 2019 was the dark night of the soul, I thought I've had them before. No, that year was a make or break kind of year.
Yeah.
My husband was on deployment again. And so I was in regular talk therapy as preventative measurement again.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I needed something more. So I took the chance and I was like, let me go find out about this NLP thing. Ever since I took that first NLP personal course, my life has completely changed.
Wow.
So from there, I was like, this needs to be my thing that I do for people, because I wanted to be able to be at home with my son and also help people, because that's just always what I've done. but in
Yeah.
different ways. So I learned NLP, hypnotherapy, time techniques, and I love it.
Oh, okay. So before we move forward, let's go back to your story. So you said you went into what was called hypno breathing or hypno birthing.
Hypno babies.
Hypno babies. How did you
Mhm.
discover that? Like where did you find that? Like how did that come into your peripheral?
I am not even sure, honestly.
Really?
Yes,
A divine
probably.
guidance, right?
Yeah, probably something like affirmations, how affirmations for pregnancy,
Yeah.
and I go down that rabbit hole and I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
hypnotherapy, my grandma used to do that. So what is this hypno babies? And it's
Yeah.
just how to speak to your child while your child's in the womb to
Mm.
help them with the transition from womb to world.
Wow. Okay. I've never
Yeah.
heard of hypno babies, but that's like sounds amazing because I do believe that they can hear you inside there. My sister used to read books to my niece while she was in the belly, and she's hecka smart. Like she's so smart. And I'm like, you're smart because I think my sister used to read to you all the time. Now, for people who don't know and are listening, because for me, when you say Montessori,
Mhm.
I think of just like a school that you drop your kids off while you go to work. It's not like a daycare. How would you describe Montessori to people who are listening?
So Montessori is a way of teaching the child things that they need to know as to be a full whole person.
Mm-hmm.
Like at 2 years old, I was teaching him how to play with different open-ended toys so that he could become a think for yourselfer. That is a big thing for me. I want my
Mm-hmm.
child to be able to think for himself,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And these um they just look like blocks,
Yeah.
but when you play with them in a certain type of way, it helps open up their creativity. It helps them learn to be independent. It helps them learn how to interact with others. So it's this whole thing, like
It's a different way than just
it.
regular daycare or a
Absolutely.
kindergarten. Okay. So that
Hmm.
opened up your existence of like, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing it wrong, or I want my child to do it this way versus the traditional way of going to school. And then you went down NLP. And for those of you who are listening, I think it's neuro-linguistic. What's the last
Programming.
programming?
Programming. Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about that and like how that opened up your mind a little bit more to like what you wanted to do.
Okay, so Montessori and NLP, the prime tool is your language. How
Mm-hmm.
you speak to the child is how they're going to act.
Mm-hmm.
How what you think of the child is how that child is going to behave. So if you believe in your child and you speak words of affirmation, words of creativity and out of the box, that's how they're going to react. And
Yeah.
NLP is basically the same thing. NLP is the language of your mind. And
Mm.
once you learn the language of your mind, you know how to speak to yourself and you know how to speak to others, including children, adults, whoever, in a way that helps you and them both become the versions of yourself and themselves that you all would like to be.
Yeah, I love your definition of that because I've heard of NLP before. I've been through a lot of Tony Robbins events and everything, and they talk about NLP all the time. But for whatever reason, like I would like did some research and I would see some people say that NLP is just a way for people to like make you do what they want you to do. So it's like kind of like cultish or whatever. So I was like, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the way you describe it seems more like it's not a negative thing. It's a like a way of helping you guide you to be like more of yourself. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly how I feel about it. Um, I think there's a definite dark side of NLP, and in school that's what they teach us, and
Mm-hmm.
they let us know that there is a dark side, And just like there's a dark side to money, there's a dark side to, things like knives, there's
Yeah.
a dark side to everything. So it's your intention.
Yeah, I think there's a duality in everything that we have in life, including ourselves. There's a dark side in me if something was
Mhm.
supposed to happen, right? Like if someone attacked your child, you would go right to the dark side, right?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
I never thought of NLP as being something that we can use positively, but then it also makes me think about how I was just talking to somebody, how when we're in a toxic narcissistic relationship, somebody telling us you're not good enough, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're fat, and then you create that negative pathway in your life, we could do the opposite of that and actually tell ourselves, actually, you're really good, you're amazing, you're talented, you're skilled, you're courageous, you're brilliant. And like what that could do to that person, which made me think the other day, because I was scrolling through TikTok and I was like, I want to make this video.
Interesting question.
Oops, sorry, my phone. Interesting question. No, I want to make this video of like, how does it feel to grow up with parents who loved and adored you? Like for those of you, because I just didn't grow up like that, So like
Yeah.
I struggled a lot in life. And I look at my stepson who is like absolutely adored by me, by my husband, by his mom. Like I always say, like, your wife's going to hate us because we spoil the shit out of you.
Oh my gosh. I know. I say the same thing about
You
my
know what I
son.
mean? We spoil him so much, but it's like he is so talented and he is so good at sports and he's got like a 4.3 GPA and he's got all these amazing dreams and like there are no limits to the things that he thinks about what he wants to do in his life because he's got 3 people cheering him on and rooting for him.
Amazing.
But when you grow up without that, without somebody that's like your cheerleader or someone who's guiding you or someone who's telling you all these amazing things about you and encouraging you to follow your dreams, like obviously someone like me, I had to struggle to try to get to that place. So I love this idea of like, you knew you were going to bring in a child into this world, another human being. And you're like, what are the best tools I can do to make him like have the best outcome?
I wanted him, like, when I found out that we were pregnant, I was like, I want to instill with him confidence to be himself, creativity to think for himself. I don't want to pass on my traumas. I want him to grow up as amazing as he possibly can be. And what can I do to help teach him that? Because I have to teach him.
Yeah, I love that because I think not very many people like take that time to like really think about that, to have that introspection to say like, how can I be a great teacher for him versus like, oh, I'm having a baby, like let's have a baby shower, let's do all this, like, those are great things, and to celebrate the fact that you're bringing in another human. But I think people don't understand, like, to become a mother and to become a parent, whether you're a step parent like I am, like it's a huge undertaking. You're creating another human. And I was just having this conversation on another podcast that I was a guest on. It's like, we have a license to drive a car. We have a license to even be a massage therapist or a hairstylist, but there's no license to become a parent. And people are just out there willy-nilly having children, right? Willy-nilly having children and bringing in what I call the walking wounded, because, right? Because you're just, like you said, I don't want to pass on my trauma and my pain to him, but not a lot of people think that way, and I commend you for that. I commend you. I wish more parents took the time to say, I'm bringing in a human into this world. How can I set this human up to be the best version they could possibly be here? So, I love that. So tell us a little bit more about NLP, like maybe give us a little bit of tidbits, like how, for someone who has never taken a class in NLP, how can they incorporate maybe 3 things in their life to like make a difference?
So one of the very first things that they teach us in NLP, which helped me understand why and how my parents were the type of parents they were, because it was the same thing. I didn't have a cheerleader. I struggled. Where I was before NLP and now is completely different. But one of the things that they teach you is everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have at that time.
Absolutely.
And when I think about my parents being 18, barely graduated high school, and then my mother, 27, has only been in the United States for 3 months. And here I am. Hey, like I wasn't planned. It was a surprise, So they had their own traumas that they were healing or not, or trying, or didn't even notice, So they did the best they could with the resources they had at that time. That helped a lot. Also, people are not their behaviors. Your behavior is a manifestation of things that you are trying to overcome. So knowing that people are not their behaviors, but also you have to calibrate on their behaviors. It's kind of tricky because yes or no, they are not their behaviors, but if they repeat a behavior over and over and over, you have to go on that behavior. So like when a friend is making a huge mistake and you know that they can do better, but they're just not seeing it, that's usually a trauma response. So just because they mess up one time doesn't mean that they're a mess up. It just means that they're not seeing the full picture. And that's okay. That's a learning curve for them. What's another one? Our lives are experienced through the pictures, sounds, and feelings we make up in our mind, and the labels we give those pictures, sounds, and feelings. So if you have a bad memory, the easiest thing to do is see that memory in your mind, see all the labels that you've given it, and then kind of push it away, and then look at it from a third person, like a security camera view, and see what you can see from a different perspective.
I love that. I love, you said the pictures, sounds, and what was the emotions? Feelings. Yeah. That you put on something, you label it, and then you categorize it as this, right? Because when I was young, my mom made me drink, like I was really, really sick. She made me drink like a celery, like in Spanish, it's called a licuado, which would be a smoothie in English. And I remember it wasn't the smoothie per se, it was the way she like forced it on me and was like mad that I was like gagging at the smell of it. And like for a long time, the picture of the celery, the picture of the smell, the emotions that I was feeling, I couldn't eat celery for a long time. Like I couldn't even have it near me in my vicinity. Now I know that like you can just like change the memory of it behind it. Like you said, see it from a 3D, like a different viewpoint, and like kind of give yourself a little bit of compassion and empathy, and also compassion and empathy for the person that maybe have hurt you because they didn't know what they didn't know at the time, right? I always think about people who like deal with trauma and pain. And I love that you talked about how your parents were really young. If you think about it, like who you are, I'm 43. At 18, I would have been the worst mother ever, right?
There's a reason why I took so long to have babies.
I would have been, well, I didn't have any because of the fact that I was so afraid that I was going to pass on the trauma and the pain, and here's the thing, like you think about it, like my mom was super young when she had her first kid, and she never had the chance to really go on like this discovery healing journey. And honestly, I feel like more people are starting to go on their discovery healing journey because of the internet. Right? Because people are sharing their stories and people are saying, I went through this, I did this, and now I'm on the other side. But before the internet, before even cell phones, when we just had beepers, we were going through our dark nights of the soul alone with no tools. We didn't even have the internet to search what do we do next, or what's I would have had no clue where to begin, like what books to read, like none of that was in my peripheral. Even therapy wasn't even something that my family thought
Yeah.
about to do. And so I love that we're in this age where we can actually share stories and resources and all of these things in order for us to start here, like healing and be curious about, like, I'm glad that I have you on this podcast, because like I've always seen NLP as a bad thing. Don't go get yourself into that because it's a bad thing. But now, like, hearing it from your perspective, like, now I'm curious. I want to go take a class.
It's so fun. It is so fun.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about like how you began coaching, like after you took those classes, and like what led you to start coaching women, and like how long have you been coaching, and what is the best part of it that you love?
So I started coaching in 2017. And I started as a health coach because I had some health issues and I healed it. So I wanted to go
Mm-hmm.
learn more. And health coaching was fun for me. And it's an aspect that I use sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But health coaching, as the actual coaching aspect of it, was not it.
Yeah.
And then I feel that my time behind the chair as a hairstylist and hearing all those women, all of those conversations we had, I feel in my heart that is when I actually began coaching, because so many of those women were like, you do a great hair, my
Mm-hmm.
hair looks great, but I don't come for the hair. I come
Yeah.
because you're better than my therapist. I'm just like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay. So I think that's when the seeds were planted. And
Mm-hmm.
then once I became a mom and I noticed all these unhealed parents just having it seemed like a lot of people were having babies for the gram because it looks so
Yeah.
easy, glamorous, and that's not the case. And then when things get hard, they're just lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I was having all these conversations with all these parents, men and women. And I was just like, have you looked at yourself here? Have you thought about, you know, exploring this so you can be calm when your
Yeah.
baby freaks out, because it's going to happen, you
Yeah.
know?
I was just having a conversation with somebody at a lunch, and she was saying having a child is like the most triggering and traumatic thing for someone who is unhealed, because the child is a reflection back on you, especially if you haven't done any healing and you're teaching them all the negative things that you've learned as a kid. And then they reflect that back to you. You're like, wait a minute. And you're like, you have all these like unopened, all these open traumas that you're like, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? And it's also too, like, if you love your child so much, like I just recently posted a video of me crying on my treadmill because I'm watching this little girl on TikTok enjoying her Christmas and presents and love and trees and just like this amazing like Christmas thing. It's like, God, I didn't have that in my childhood, like, so you
Mhm.
cry at the loss of the things you didn't have, and you're providing for your child. So there's a lot going on when you create, and then plus all your estrogen and testosterone and your hormones are everywhere, and postpartum depression. It's like, like you said, it is like the gram. People are so busy trying to put this like perfect persona, like I'm the mom that does all these amazing things. And when you can't, because you physically are emotionally drained and like spiritually drained, and you're lacking sleep, like who's there to pick you up? Do you have the tools to know how to act in that moment without lashing out on your child and recreating that cycle of trauma over and over again, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lashing out on your partner, lashing out on your child, lashing out at work, you
Yeah.
know? And when you realize that you have the tools and they become teachable moments for your partner, they become teachable moments for your child, because now when I freak out about something, like, I can't think of anything right now, but if I'm having an emotional moment,
Yeah.
my son will come to me. He'll like rub my shoulders,
Oh,
get me a tissue, guide me through breathing, be
oh,
like, Mommy, let's do tapping. And I'm just like, oh, my baby.
yeah.
Are listening. Goodness.
Right? That's
Mhm.
good because then you're creating someone's husband who's going to do that for her, rather
Mhm.
than those narcissistic men out there that are just like slapping you around or hurting you or telling you to get out with your emotions because it's too much for them to handle.
Mhm.
So I love that you're creating this beautiful human who's going to be walking around this earth, like creating and giving and evolving and growing and being just like this beautiful light. And I wish more parents did that. I wish more parents gave their children the tools, and not just for themselves, not for the children, but also for yourself. Like really
Mhm.
try to take the time to go out there and like heal yourself. I love that you said like people would come to you on your chair to get a haircut, but they're like, you're better than my therapist. Uh,
At the time, I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah. And I love that you said just looking at women, they looked so well put together on the outside, and you have no clue what's going on the
None.
inside. And I think a lot of us have that persona outside. We're like, oh, everything's fine and put together, but we're all dealing with some sort of trauma, pain, hurt, or suffering in silence. And there's so many amazing tools and coaches like Angie who are out there who have done the work. I think people don't understand. We become coaches not because we decided when we were little kids, like, I want to be a life coach. No,
Right. Right.
we had to go through the dark nights of the soul, and we had to go through the darkness in order to become the light that we are today. All
Mhm.
right. So,
Absolutely.
so what kind of, how do you serve the women that you work with? Like, do you have coaching programs? Like, how does it work for you or to work
So,
with you?
right now, I have been working mostly with women one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Usually we start around 4 to 6 weeks, and then as long as they feel the need or would like to continue. In the spring, I am starting a group program. For the first
Ooh.
time, I'll be offering a group program. It'll be very small. And then from there, I will deliver that as a self-paced course.
Mm.
Um, but the group program will basically be the way I coach one person at a time. There's a there's a curve that you go through. If
Yeah.
you've never done any kind of healing work before, the first 3 to 4 weeks, you are kind of leveling out your playing field. You're
Mm.
leveling out your emotions. You're getting out of the fire. And then from there, you're learning how to manifest and create this world ongoing for yourself.
Yes, beautiful. So,
Mhm.
as we wrap up this episode, what would be your nugget of wisdom for anyone who is listening right now? Or maybe if you can go back to Angie in the beginning, what would be something that you would tell her?
Just do it. Whatever it is you want to do, just do it, because it's not going to go away. It's only
Mm.
going to get louder and more annoying until you do the thing that you want to
Right?
do. So
Just do it.
just do it, like Nike's, I guess.
How can my audience find you?
www.thenewclassicwoman.com, or at Instagram at I am Anji Gray.
Perfect. Are you on any other social media, TikTok or?
No, not yet.
Oh,
Not
you need
yet.
to get on the
I
TikTok.
know. I know. I keep hearing about it. See, you should do it. I keep
See,
hearing.
that is your
Yeah,
whisper of the world. You need to
it
get on
is.
there. There's a
It
huge
is.
audience waiting to hear your voice. Well, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. If you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual mentor, you can book a free discovery call with me at www.fearlessfemale.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at fearlessfemale_coach, subscribe to my YouTube channel at fearlessfemale, or find me on TikTok. I'm under at paola.rosser. And if you love this episode, make sure you hit subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review. I read every single review, and I truly appreciate the time you spend writing it.